bending, broken rule. Hound dog howling, bullfrog croaking. Everything is broken.
Hi, and welcome to another edition of Dad's Divorce Live. I'm Matt Allen, editor of DadsDivorce.com. Today we're talking with family court judge Michele Lowrance, who has written a book called The Good Karma Divorce. The book was written to help people who are going through divorce avoid litigation, turn negative emotions into positive actions, and to move on with the rest of their lives. You can find out more about the book at goodkarmadivorce.com. Michele has appeared on Good Morning America, the CBS Early Show, and a host of other national programming, so we're thankful she has the time to join us today. So Michele, thanks again for joining us.
Thank you. It's wonderful to be with you.
Now, as a current sitting family court judge in Chicago, what is your approach when a divorcing couple comes into your courtroom?
Well, if a divorcing couple is coming into my courtroom, and I want to structure it towards the gist of your show, which is to parenting. Mm-hmm. So we're talking about a couple with children.
Right.
And when they stand in front of me, most people look pretty terrified.
Yeah.
I think people are terrified of the process. And the first thing that I want to do is to tell them that there is a way to get divorced and protect your children. That your children do not have to go through a nightmare if you follow certain kinds of instructions and certain kind of behavior. That the power is still in your hands. When they first come in, the power is still in their hands. They're not quite, hopefully, caught in the cycle of negativity, which sometimes an adversarial process breeds.
Now, you and I have talked before that you've said fathers oftentimes come into your courtroom with this core fear that they feel maybe they're at a disadvantage already or they're going to lose access to their children. So how do you address that?
Well, I think this is the primary terror. Still, the statistics are that the caretakers are still the women by and large. Mm-hmm. It's changing. But the fathers come in, and the first thing they're afraid of is that somehow that the children will be used as a weapon, and that not only might they lose access to their children, but the relationship that they do have could get contaminated. And I think fathers are terrified about this. Mm-hmm. And justifiably, because when people start fighting, relationships are in jeopardy. Mm-hmm.
Now, you came highly recommended by someone we've had on a past episode, Jill Ajizi, also from your state of Illinois. And she said that you just have this really unique approach with working with fathers when they do come into your courtroom. I guess, what are the specifics of that, and how do you help them, I guess, cope with this really difficult time?
Well, I could see it in their eyes, Matt. I could see the terror, and first thing I want them to do is write down every single fear that they have. What is it they're really afraid of losing? Is it daily contact? Is it that she's not going to let the phone calls go through? Is it that they're not going to get to do homework and they were a major in science and they're really good at it and mom's not? Is it going to be about sports? So in order to get into problem solving, we first have to make a list of everything that dads are really afraid of. And once we have it on paper, the fight no longer becomes who's going to have the power, who's going to be the one in charge, because the father can get more yeses to all of the items on their list than they can to a global who's going to have custody.
Right.
So when parents start to figure out that they can manage it themselves, and that the title of custody is the least, it means something, don't get me wrong, but it's all of the day-to-day stuff that dads and moms care about. You start with the day-to-day stuff. Before you know it, you have agreement on 85% of things that you never even thought you would have input on.
And then they don't have to go before a judge, presumably, to work out those type of issues?
They could do this. They don't have to do this in my courtroom. They could do this through their lawyers. They could do it through each other. But in the beginning, communication is tentative. People are scared. They're afraid they're going to say the wrong thing. They're afraid something they're going to say is going to be used against them. Matt, if there was one single thing that is the most important for families is for the mom and dad to continue talking, even if they have to go to a therapist or a minister or even through their lawyers. But when the communication stops, that's when you have the explosion.
Now, in your book, you write that 100% of the people who come into your courtroom are able to avoid litigation. So,
well, if they follow these principles, it's certainly
right.
not like walking into Oz.
Right.
Believe me, I mean, there's work to be done. And sometimes negotiating feels like far more work than, say, I'll see you in court, we'll let a judge decide. Because then it feels like one sentence is going to get you relief, and it never does. Judge can never really know who you are and can never decide the best interest. And whatever deal we shove down your throat is not the same as the compromises that you're going to make that you have control over. Those are the ones you can live with, not the ones that a judge forces on you.
Right. Well, let's talk about your book, The Good Karma Divorce. What about your experiences on the bench made you want to write this book?
You know, let's look around, Matt. You know, everybody is terrified of the process of divorce. Mm-hmm. When people know they're going to get divorced, they're not just in the pain about the breaking up of the family and the loneliness and the fear of the unknown, but the whole divorcing process has its own level of pain. And this is what I really needed to address on top of everybody else. How to emotionally and practical tools for getting through this process so that by the time you're done, you have not completely lost your soul and your family and your finances.
Right.
And I thought that everybody needed a guide to take them from the beginning to the end, sort of hold their hand, guide them through and around every minefield so that they could keep control over their lives and not delegate it to somebody else who can't have their sensibilities, who doesn't have the time to really know what they're about. And this is a way to keep your own power.
Now, you talk about good karma in divorce. What do you mean by that, and how can people go about achieving this good karma divorce?
Well, it's a good question because people sometimes think, good karma, you're getting good karma from a divorce? Obviously not. Karma, the way I use it, is you are going to have so many opportunities in the process of your breakup and your divorce that are going to cause you to make so many choices, high road, more negative, more anger, or unhooking from whatever injustice you think your spouse has done. Karma means choices, opportunities. Depending upon what choices you make, it's going to set the template for your future. So the karma is playing it forward, and the karma is choices. Who do you want to become? Because I'll tell you something. You look at yourself in the mirror, you're not the same person at the end. And the karma, the good karma, is that through struggle, and this is one of life's worst struggles, through struggle you can transcend to be somebody even better than you ever thought. Perhaps the struggle has caused you to be more insightful, to be a better parent, to learn better parenting skills than you ordinarily would. That's what I mean by karma.
Right, that's a great point. And you have some great advice, and I encourage anyone going through divorce to definitely check out Judge Michele Lowrance's book, The Good Karma Divorce. Michele, thanks again for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me and asking such good questions. I look forward to talking to you in the future.
You're welcome. That'll do it for this edition of Dad's Divorce Live. I'm Matt Allen, editor of DadsDivorce.com. We'll see you next time.
Broken pipe